Hurricane hits England. It took a hurricane to bring her closer to the landscape. Half the night she lay awake, the howling ship of the wind, its gathering rage, like some dark ancestral spectre, fearful and reassuring. Talk to me, Hurricane, talk to me, Oya, talk to me, Shango, and Hattie, my sweeping back home cousin. Tell me why you visit an English coast. What is the meaning of old tongues reaping havoc in new places? The blinding illumination, even as you short-circuit us into further darkness. What is the meaning of trees falling heavy as whales, their crusted roots, their cratered graves? Oh, why is my heart unchained? Tropical Oya of the weather, I'm aligning myself to you. I'm following the movement of your winds. I'm riding the mystery of your storm. Ah, sweet mystery, come to break the frozen lake in me, shaking the foundations of the very trees within me. Come to let me know that the earth is the earth, is the earth.
This poetry is like a rhythm that drops. The tongue brings a rhythm that shoots like a shot. This poetry is designed for ranting, dancehall style, big mouth chanting. This poetry won't put you to sleep saying, follow me like your blind sheep. This poetry is not party political, not designed for those who are critical. This poetry goes with me when I go to my bed. It gets into my dreadlocks and it lingers around my head. This poetry is with me when I am riding my bike. I have tried Shakespeare, respect Juliet, but this is the stuff I like. This poetry is not afraid of going in a book. No, but this poetry needs ears to hear and eyes to have a look. Yes, this poetry is verbal rhythm, no big words involved. And if I have a problem, the rhythm gets it solved. I have tried to be romantic. It did no good for me. I take a reggae rhythm and build my poetry. I could try something personal, but you've heard it all before. No written words are needed because plenty words in store. This poetry is called dub ranting. It comes with a beat and the body starts skanking. This poetry is quick and childish. This poetry is for the wise and foolish. Anybody can do it for free. This poetry is for you and me. Don't stretch your imagination. This poetry is for the good of the nation. Chant in the morning, I chant in the night, I chant in the darkness and under the spotlight. I pass through university, I pass through sociology, and then I got a dread degree in dreadful ghettoology. Poetry is with me when I take a walk, and when I'm talking to myself in poetry I talk. This poetry is with me, below me, and above, you see. This poetry is from inside me and goes to you.
He's in every lover who ever stood alone beneath a window, and every jealous whispered word, and every ghost that will not rest. He's in every father with a favourite, every eye that stops to linger on what someone else has got and starts to widen in distress. He's in every young man that grows boastful, every worn-out elder drunk for days, muttering false prophecies and squandering their lot. He's in every complex misunderstanding that springs up between a group of friends and never seems to end, even when its beginnings are forgot. He's in every girl who ever used her wits to outsmart the status quo. He's in every vain self-admirer, every passionate, ambitious social climber. He's in every misheard word that ever led to tempers fraying. He's in every pawn that moves across the board and still remains convinced that it's not playing. So you might think his words are ancient, you might think his words are dead, but chances are you've quoted him directly if you've ever said, oh, it sets my teeth on edge, or there's a method in my madness, or pure as the driven snow, or my hair's standing on end, or all that glitters is not gold, or I haven't slept a wink, or I wear my heart upon my sleeve, or the beast with two backs, or the word puking, which is harder to believe, or fighting fire with fire, or having too much of a good thing. You see, his pen was mightier than his sword, but still his words are like blades that sing our very names when they strike. Here's the milk of human kindness, up in arms, break the ice. Here's the green-eyed monster. His discretion is the better part of valor. And now his words with their arms around each other's shoulders swagger to the ends of their phrases. They're proud of everything they've done, of how his pages have lasted through the ages, of how he has become a poet whose poetics have embedded themselves so firmly in the fabric of our language it's like he's in our mouths. His words have tangled round our own and given rise to expressions so effective in expressing how we feel, we can't imagine how we'd feel without them. He's less the tights and garters, more the sons demanding answers from the absence of their fathers, the hot darkness of a doomed embrace, the laughter of the night before, the tightened jaw of the morning after. He is in us, part and parcel of our royals and our rascals. He's not just something boring taught in classrooms in language that's hard to understand. He's not just a feeling of inadequacy when you sit for an exam. He's in every valiant woman, every pitiful villain, every sore loser, every great king, every fake tear. And his legacy exists and lives on in everything he's written, and if you listen, you will hear him everywhere. He's my Shakespeare.
My name is Mark Smith, and this is Small Boy. Imagine a little kid at a spinet piano in a bungalow on the southeast side of Chicago, and he's doodling with the keys. This was the rain, this the thunder, and this the electrostatic stitches now and again in the gray-growing darkness gripping the sky. This was the bright blue, the sun, steps of a spider, light on the downspout, beads on the paint flakes, peeling off tin. This was the moon, dissolving in a window, wrapping a shade, a passage of air. It moved the curtains, sheer white from the wood sill, wet to the alley, caught in a spin. This was the cry, calling at midnight, voiceless a cry, calling within. These were the footsteps. Someone was coming, no one to listen, no one to care. He was a small boy running from father. He was a father running to son. They were a moment, caught in a photo, caught in the sunlight, caught in a spin. Here is the green lawn, under the sunlight. Green is the empire, bounded by walks. Here he is running, fast through the red leaves, falling in autumn into a pile. Face of all sunlight, passage through gangways, taken at emergence, emergence to light. This is the bright face, face of October, racing the summer, Indian ghost. These are the brushed leaves, frosted in autumn, curling at sunset, curling in smoke. This is the lace gown, garment of snowfall, flaking upon him, falling within. He was a small boy, running from father. He was a father running to son. They were a moment, caught in a photo, caught in the sunlight, caught in the spin. This was the rain, this was the thunder, this was the lightning stitching the sky. Now comes the dark blue, backing the moonlight. These are the stars spinning on high. These are the stars spinning on high.
I just love the mix of memory and seasons and nature. Was this a difficult poem to compose?
I did this poem for a very specific reason. It was maybe 5 years into my career as a performance poet, and I, like many writers, I had used the angry and painful things of life to fuel. You can use anger and you can fuel and get a lot of power out of it, especially as a performer. And I wanted to do something that used the power of beauty and sunlight to gain that same power. And I was working with the band I worked with at the time, and we always used to have these driving things, and I composed this, and then we composed some very beautiful music that goes with it. So it was actually, it was very joyful, even though it does deal with somewhat of some painful memories. It was kind of a joyful exercise to bring that power from a positive.
This the thunder.
And this, the electrostatic stitches knit now and again in the gray growing darkness, gripping the sky. This was the bright blue, steps of a spider, rain on the downspout, peeling off tin. This was the moon. I think I just got off the phone. That's to the moon. This was the moon. Ci dissalvo. Finestra. This was the moon, dissolving in the window, wrapping a shade, a passage of air. It moved the curtains, sheer white from the wood sill, wet to the alley, caught in a spin. This was the cry, calling at midnight, voiceless a cry, calling within. These were the footsteps. Someone was coming. No one to listen, no one to care. He was a small boy running from father. He was a father running to son. They were a moment caught in a photo, caught in the sunlight, caught in a spin. Here is the green lawn. Here is the green lawn under the sunlight. Green is the empire bounded by walks. Here he is running fast to the red leaves, falling in autumn into a pile. Face of all sunlight, passage through gangways, taken at emergence to light. This is the bright face of October, racing the summer, Indian ghost. These are the brush leaves, frosted in morning, curling in sunset, curling in smoke. This is the lace gown, garment of snowfall, flaking pine. It's a small boy running from father. He was a father running to son. They were a moment caught in a photo, caught in the sunlight, caught in a spin. This was the rain. This was the thunder. This was the lightning stitching the sky. Here comes the dark blue. There is the moonlight. These are the stars spinning on high. These are the stars spinning on high.
The following is a reading of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's poem, Paul Revere's Ride, published in 1863. This poem, composed almost a century after Paul Revere's Ride in 1775, is a classic of American poetry. And now, Paul Revere's Ride from Longfellow's Tales of Wayside Inn. Listen, my children, and you shall hear of the midnight ride of Paul Revere. On the 18th of April in 75, hardly a man is now alive who remembers that famous day and year. He said to his friend, if the British march by land or sea from the town tonight, hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light, one if by land and two if by sea. And I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm. Then he said, good night, and with a muffled oar silently rowed to the Charleston shore. Just as the moon rose over the bay, where swinging wide at her moorings lay, the Somerset, British man of war, a phantom ship with each mast and spar across the moon like a prison bar, and a huge black hulk that was magnified by its own reflection in the tide. Meanwhile, his friend, through alley and street, wanders and watches with eager ears, till in the silence around him he hears the muster of men at the barrack door, the sound of arms and the tramp of feet, and the measured tread of the grenadiers, marching down to their boats on the shore. Then he climbed the tower of the Old North Church by the wooden stairs with stealthy tread, till the belfry chamber overhead, and startled the pigeons from their perch on the somber rafters that round him made masses and moving shapes of shade, by the trembling ladder steep and tall, to the highest window in the wall, where he paused to listen and look down, a moment on the roofs of the town, and the moonlight flowing over all. Beneath in the churchyard lay the dead in their night encampment on the hill, wrapped in silence so deep and still that he could hear, like a sentinel's tread, the watchful night wind as it went, creeping along from tent to tent and seeming to whisper, all is well. A moment only he feels the spell of the place and the hour, and the secret dread of the lonely belfry and the dead. For suddenly all his thoughts are bent on a shadowy something far away, where the river widens to meet the bay. A line of black that bends and floats on the rising tide like a bridge of boats. Meanwhile, impatient to mount and ride, booted and spurred with a heavy stride, on the opposite shore walked Paul Revere. Now he patted his horse's side, now gazed at the landscape far and near, then impetuous stamped the earth, and turned and tightened his saddle girth. But mostly he watched with eager search the belfry tower of the Old North Church, as it rose above the graves on the hill, lonely and spectral and somber and still. And lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer and then a gleam of light. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes till full on his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns. A hurry of hoofs in the village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath from the pebbles in passing, a spark struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet. That was all. And yet, through the gloom and the light, the fate of a nation was riding that night. And the spark struck out by that steed, in his flight, kindled the land into flame with its heat. He has left the village and mounted the steep, and beneath him, tranquil and broad and deep, is the mystic, meeting the ocean tides. And under the alders that skirt its edge, now soft on the sand, now loud on the ledge, is heard the tramp of his steed as he rides. It was 12 by the village clock. When he crossed the bridge into Medford town, he heard the crowing of the cock and the barking of the farmer's dog, and felt the damp of the river fog that rises after the sun goes down. It was 1 by the village clock when he galloped into Lexington. He saw the gilded weathercock swim in the moonlight as he passed, and the meeting house windows, blank and bare, gaze at him with a spectral glare, as if they already stood aghast at the bloody work they would look upon. It was 2 by the village clock when he came to the bridge in Concord town. He heard the bleating of the flock and the twitter of birds among the trees, and felt the breath of the morning breeze blowing over the meadows brown. And one was safe and asleep in his bed, who at the bridge would be first to fall, who that day would be lying dead, pierced by a British musket ball. You know the rest. In the books you have read how the British regulars fired and fled, how the farmers gave them ball for ball from behind each fence and farmyard wall, chasing the redcoats down the lane, then crossing the fields to emerge again. Under the trees at the turn of the road, and only pausing to fire and load. So through the night rode Paul Revere, and so through the night went his cry of alarm to every Middlesex village and farm, a cry of defiance and not of fear, a voice in the darkness, a knock at the door, and a word that shall echo forevermore. For borne on the night wind of the past through all our history to the last, in the hour of darkness and peril and need, the people will waken and listen to hear the hurrying hoofbeats of that steed and the midnight message of Paul Revere.
I'll start with this poem. I wrote this poem when the bombs were dropping on Gaza, and I was the media spokesperson for the coalition, doing a lot of the organizing, and we had stayed up to about 6 o'clock in the morning perfecting every soundbite. And by the end, if you're Palestinian, you know most Palestinians get tired and start pronouncing our P's as B's, so we become Palestinians by the end of the day. So I was practicing my P's all night, And the next morning, one of the journalists asked me, "Don't you think it would all be fine if you just stopped teaching your children to hate?" I did not insult the person, I was very polite, but I wrote this poem as a response to these types of questions we Palestinians always get. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre that had to fit into sound bites and word limits, filled enough with statistics to counter measured response. And I perfected my English and I learned my UN resolutions. But still he asked me, "Ms. Ziyada, don't you think everything would be resolved if you would just stop teaching so much hatred to your children?" Pause. I look inside of me for strength to be patient, but patience is not at the tip of my tongue as the bombs drop over Gaza. Patience has just escaped me. Pause. Smile. We teach life, sir. Rafif, remember to smile. Pause. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians teach life after they have occupied the last sky. We teach life after they have built their settlements and apartheid walls. After the last skies, we teach life, sir. But today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits. And just give us a story, a human story. You see, this is not political. We just want to tell people about you and your people. So give us a human story. Don't mention that word apartheid and occupation. This is not political. You have to help me as a journalist to help you tell your story, which is not a political story. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre. How about you give us a story of a woman in Gaza who needs medication? How about you? Do you have enough bone-broken limbs to cover the sun? Hand me over your dead and give me the list of their names in 1,200 word limits. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre made to fit into sound bites and word limits and move those that are desensitized to terrorist blood. But they felt sorry. They felt sorry for the cattle over Gaza. So I give them UN resolutions and statistics, and we condemn and we deplore and we reject. And these are not two equal sides, occupier and occupied, and 100 dead, 200 dead, and 1,000 dead. And between that war crime and massacre, I vent out words and smile, not exotic. Smile, not terrorist. And I recount 100 dead, 200 dead, 1,000 dead. Is anyone out there? Will anyone listen? I wish I could wail over their bodies. I wish I could just run barefoot in every refugee camp and hold every child, cover their ears so they wouldn't have to hear the sound of bombing for the rest of their life the way I do. Today, my body was a TV'd massacre, and let me just tell you, there is nothing your UN resolutions have ever done about this. And no soundbite I come up with, no matter how good my English gets, no soundbite will bring them back to life. No soundbite will fix this. We teach life, sir. We teach life, sir. We Palestinians wake up every morning to teach the rest of the world life, sir.
Me not know Oxford done. Me a simple immigrant from Clapham Common. I didn't graduate, I immigrate. But a warning you, Mr. Oxford done. I'm a man on the run, and a man on the run is a dangerous one. I have no gun, I have no knife, but mugging the Queen's English is the story of my life. I don't need no axe to split up your syntax. I don't need no hammer to mash up your grammar. I warning you, Mr. Oxford Don, I'm a wanted man, and a wanted man is a dangerous one. Them accuse me of assault on the Oxford Dictionary. Imagine a concise peaceful man like me. Them want me serve time for inciting rhyme to riot, but I'm taking it quiet down here in Clapham Common. I'm telling you, Mr. Oxford Dunn, I am not a violent man. I only armed with human breath. But human breath is a dangerous weapon. So make them send one big word after me. I ain't serving no jail sentence. A slashing suffix in self-defense. A bashing the future with present tense. And if necessary, I making the Queen's English accessory to my offense.
I'm wearing my father's coat. He has died. I didn't like him, but I wear the coat. I'm wearing the coat of my father, who is dead. I didn't like him, but I wear the coat just the same. A younger man stopping me on the street has asked, "Where'd you get a coat like that?" I answered that it was my father's, who's now gone, passed away. The younger man shuts up. It's not that I'm trying now to be proud of my father. I didn't like him. He was a narrow man. There was more of everything he should have done, more of what he should have tried to understand. The coat fit him well. It fits me now. I didn't love him, but I wear the coat. Most of us show off to one another fashions of who we are, sometimes buttoned to the neck, sometimes overpriced. Sometimes surprising even ourselves in garments we would have never dreamed of wearing. I wear my father's coat, and it seems to me that this is the way the most of us make each other's acquaintance, in coats we have taken to be our own.